Hi everyone, today I wanted to talk about patterns. Why do you find yourself in the same situation over and over again? You may be doing your work, you're meditating, self work, doing, inner work and all that, and yet you find yourself in that destructive relationship over and over again. Or you find yourself in that destructive job over and over again, and so you keep going back to the same pattern, and it's exasperating. And for some people it goes on for months, and so for some people for years. So here I'll explain why this happens. I'll explain the nature of patterns, and I'll explain this on a very concrete example, which is the example of, let's say you are in a relationship with somebody who's very harsh, and you keep going back to that type of person, right? So first of all, when it comes to patterns, you will feel that you are in the same pattern. It has the same feel, it has the same signature. But what you're not seeing is that a pattern has different aspects to it. So when you're healing a pattern, you're not healing one aspect, one pattern. You're healing one pattern with different aspects. And that's why that's one of the reasons why it comes over and over again. So what is happening is that what you should be doing in that moment to gain more agency, let's say, to feel more empowered, is that whenever you find yourself in the same experience, in the same pattern, start looking at the nuances. Start seeing whether it's the same aspect you're going through. Because you'll find out that there's different aspects of it. And you'll find out that, for example, for some time you worked on one aspect, and now there is another aspect that you're going through, that you're working through, that you're healing. And when you start seeing the nuances, you will feel more empowered. You'll have more agency, more a sense of control over it, and so it's going to be easier to continue with it. Now let me give you an example of this. Let's say you go back to a relationship where the person is always harsh. They're very judgmental, they're very harsh, and whatever you do, you still keep going back to that same person or to that same situation, because it may be a completely different person, but that harshness is always the same, right? So that's the pattern. So if you find yourself there, you will see that there's different aspects of it. And one of the aspects is that when you do that work, that inner work, you will find out at some point that they're harsh, but it's not personal. You'll actually detach from it, and you'll start realizing that it's their challenge, it's their issue, it's an issue that is inside of them, and that they are projecting that harshness onto everyone. So when you start realizing that experientially by doing inner work, you'll realize that that is not against you, that experience is not against you, that person is not against you, and automatically there's going to be a sense of relief, of healing, right? The second part is that you'll start seeing, for example, another aspect, not the second part, another aspect that can come up is that you'll start seeing that maybe in your life there are certain places, certain experiences, certain parts in your life where you are very harsh with yourself and then with others. And so you will start becoming more aware of that. And by becoming more aware of that, automatically you will start changing your attitude towards yourself and others. And so another healing happens. And so this aspect will go away and another will come up. And maybe the third aspect is that you'll realize that you will start healing the relationship that you have with yourself. For example, many times when we start healing to correct ourselves because we think we are faulty. And there's a harshness to it, right? And so what happens is that by doing this work, by having that harsh person coming up, you'll start becoming aware of it, right? You'll start becoming aware of it, and automatically you will start changing. A shift will happen inside of you where you'll start maybe doing inner work just because you want to be with yourself. You start doing inner work just because it feels so good to be there in the present moment. You'll start doing inner work because, and you'll understand that, there's nothing to correct. And by correcting, you're actually abandoning parts of you. You're betraying parts of you. And that's why it feels so harsh in you, right? And that's why you're coming back over to the same experience over and over again. So through this experience, you'll start improving the relationship you have with yourself and why you're doing inner work. Another aspect that may come up is that you'll find yourself, for example, using a certain method to do inner work, right? And maybe you'll be using one method, a second method, a third method, and it's like none of them are working, or they're working for a while, and then you stop using them, and you become very harsh towards yourself, right? Because you should be using them, you should be continuing, you should stick to them, right? And I don't know, and you start feeling that you're not reliable, that you can't count on yourself or whatever. But what will happen is that when you will see these thoughts, when you'll see it, you'll start realizing that unawares to you, you have maybe have taken all these methods, all these techniques, and without even being aware of it, you actually have your own technique. That maybe you not sticking to one technique is because you should find your own technique, and you'll find one through all of these. And this is just an example, because maybe the technique that you're using was good for a while. Maybe that's another reason why it's coming up. Maybe you'll find out that I don't know, there's different reasons. Anyways, the thing is that in that moment, that harshness, whenever you do something that goes against you, that harshness will come up. And do you see how many aspects are coming up and how many aspects are being healed? And when you start realizing that, yes, that pattern has the same feel to it, has the same signature, and so it feels like it's one aspect. But when you go deeper into it, you'll start seeing that there's nuances to it, that there's different aspects. You'll feel more agency over it. And you'll start seeing that, oh my God, okay, these aspects have been healed. Good for me. And then you'll start realizing that, maybe new ones are coming up. But then because you've already healed the old ones and you've gotten to this place, it will give you more energy to go to the new ones. And at some point, what will happen is that you'll stop wanting the pattern to end. You'll have no resistance to it, which means you've already taken it in and it's healed. Because in the end, you'll see that there's only one work that we usually do. It's the work with the resistance. When the resistance goes away, which means you've completely integrated it, it means that the pattern is integrated, it's healed, and that you have healed all these incredible aspects in it, and you're aware of every one of them, right? Because that's the idea. Now, this is one of the elements of why this pattern comes up over and over again. It's because of the different aspects it's made of. The second part, why the same experience shows up in your life over and over again, is very linked to it, but I want to mention it, and that is that most of the time we say we want to break a pattern. And what we mean is that we want to separate ourselves from it. We want to get rid of it, right? Which is understandable because that pattern is causing so much harm in us. It's very destructive. It makes us destructive. It puts us in destructive situations, etc., etc. But the point is that you will never, sorry for all the noise, you'll never be able to get rid of a pattern. What you're going to do is that you're going to go from the shadow pattern to the light part, to the light pattern. So what I mean is that the shadow pattern it means that your pattern, that experience you're going through, is shrouded in shadow. So you don't understand it, you don't know what's happening, you're fearful of it, and it's out, and it feels out there. That's why that harsh person feels out there, and you feel overpowered by it, right? By that person, right? By that experience, by that relationship. And the whole idea is to go into the light, which means that you take it in completely. You integrate it. And that pattern becomes your best ally. It becomes an energy that not only helped you become more aware of yourself, but it also helps you in your life purpose. And that's why it comes up over and over again. And many times with the life purpose, we think that it's so it's romanticized, it's nice, no, many times it isn't, and it shouldn't be. Now let me give you a very concrete example of what I mean. Now let's say you have that harsh person in your life, right? And it's either this person or another one, but there's always that harsh person coming up over and over again. So the first idea is to get rid of them, right? And then I'll feel fine. And then the more you do inner work, you start realizing you don't want to get rid of them. What you actually want to get rid of is the pain, right? And so you start focusing on the pain. And then you start doing more and more inner work. And as you go into it, you will find out why they are so harsh. And you'll find out how that harshness is affecting them and how it's affecting you and other people around. And maybe it's linked with your life purpose, because maybe you don't want that in this life. Maybe you came here into this world to take that energy of harshness and change it into compassion, into love, into connection, whatever it is. But in order to do that, you need to know the effects of it. You need to know what it is about. And so you need to integrate it. And so when you start understanding why people can become harsh, why you maybe have become harsh, maybe it's not you directly, but you're seeing the effects of it. And when you start understanding that, you start understanding every person in this world who's going through that experience. You start understanding the people that are harsh and the people that are victims of this harshness. And at some point you will understand that they're actually one. And this maybe is your life purpose, and your life purpose is to take that wound and change it into empowerment, which means that now, because you know all this, you can now find solutions. You will find inside of you the resilience that that will take you to solutions, to methods, to ways in which you'll change that harshness into compassion, into love. And when it comes to life purpose, which is very linked with, which is based on your patterns, by the way, you will realize that your life purpose is not only about you, but it's about everyone around. And that's why it can be sometimes so overwhelming. And that's why it can be so painful, because you're tapping into people's pains. And that's why it comes up over and over again, because it asks of it seeks strength. It's bringing out your strength. It's bringing out your courage. It's bringing out your intelligence. It's bringing out every possible means and that you can have, that you can bring out, that can be brought out in order to fulfill that purpose. So let me stop it here. And I hope this is clear. And just to wrap it up, a pattern is not one aspect. It's made of very different aspects. And every time you heal one aspect, another one will come up. And that's why there's this feeling of going to the same thing over and over again. So start becoming aware of the nuances of that pattern. The second thing is, you don't get rid of a pattern, because your pattern is linked with your life purpose. You take that shadow pattern, a pattern you don't understand, you take it into yourself, it alchemizes, and it's actually the part that will show you a wound that we all have, and it will give you means and ways to bring solution to that, to bring medicine to that. So if you have any questions, any comments, let me know down below. And if you want to work on patterns and life purposes, then you can always book a session with me, because I love doing that. That's my work. And and if you have anything to share, any experience that you're going through, let me know down below. I'd love to know. Ciao, ciao.